So in this video, I want to talk about how to experience inner peace pretty much whenever you're going through anything, at any time. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be happy, but you can find peace within yourself despite what is going on outside of you. And a lot of times, what actually disturbs our own inner peace is resisting life, having our own preferences, our own thoughts about how things should go. And it's these projections that cause our own inner disturbance, because when we think that something is going to go a certain way and it doesn't go that way and we can't control it, now we're the ones that are upset about it. We feel a disturbance of inner peace. And this could range from, the traffic outside, the weather, all the way to, the loss of a loved one. And again, some of these things are going to be harder to experience inner peace with than others. For example, it might be easier to find peace within yourself if it's raining outside and you want it to be sunny than, if you recently lost a family pet, for example. But in this video, I hope that you'll be able to gain the tools or the insights that will allow you to practice coming back to inner peace. And this is like a muscle that you can strengthen within yourself. So if you can practice it with the small things, over time, it will grow stronger within yourself, where when the big things happen in life, you can still find that inner peace within yourself. Even though you might be sad or upset or frustrated or grieving or whatever it is, there can still be an underlying peace. I've experienced it. So resisting life is the way that we disturb our own inner peace, the way that we create our own suffering, if you will, by attaching to certain outcomes, attaching to certain ideas about how we think life should go. And by attaching to those things, and when they don't happen, we are then creating that suffering. And not only that, but we go through life trying to control it. And we don't have that much control over life, over the flow of life. It's like standing in a stream and trying to control the direction of the water. You can't. You might be able to control some of it sometimes, but it's too much. We don't have that much control. But when we can allow the water to flow without our resistance, life becomes much lighter for us. We don't experience as much heaviness, as much resistance, as much rigidity in life. And I came to this insight a few years ago, and it's the more rigid we are in life, the harder life will be. And the visual of that is, imagine a palm tree in a hurricane or in a strong windstorm. It bends with the wind. And because it's fluid and flexible, it doesn't snap. It doesn't snap in the wind. It survives those storms. But if you were to put an oak tree in that same hurricane or that same windstorm next to the palm tree, it would bend and it would break. The oak tree is much more rigid. And it's that rigidity that doesn't allow it to bend with the wind, and therefore it snaps. It doesn't survive that storm. And I'm sure you've experienced this in your own life. When you're too rigid to your own expectations, it creates more suffering. It's much harder to go through life because things don't always go according to our own plans, our own expectations. And when they don't, and when we're attached to those expectations, when we're very rigid in how we want things to go, that's when it's like we're that oak tree in the wind and we feel ourselves breaking, suffering. Like, it's very difficult to manage ourselves when that happens. But imagine if you could let go of first of all, let go of your attachment to how things should go or how you think they should go. And then let go of your resistance to what happens outside of you. I bet you anything, if we had no resistance to what happens in life, we would go through life with much more inner peace. And in fact, I'm willing to bet we would have next to no inner disturbance. We would just be, but that's not necessarily, it's very difficult to do because we're humans. We have emotions, we have conditioned minds, we have perceptions and preferences and all of those things. And I think that's the journey, the spiritual journey through life, is shedding these things, letting these things go, purging that personal self so that you can surrender and flow with life through non-resistance to have more inner peace. It's a choice. It doesn't mean you have to do it. The more that we attach to things, the other side of that coin is the more suffering we're going to experience in life. But when you get the things that you want, you're going to feel more, the higher the high, if you will, more peaks and valleys. Life is kind of this roller coaster ride of ups and downs. And we can live that way, or you can choose to not attach and not resist and have a more stable sense of contentment, peace within yourself. So a lot of inner peace comes down to attachment and resistance. What are we attaching to? What are we resisting? And it's our preferences, living from this self-concept, this ego of I like this and therefore it should be this way. I want this to happen based on what I want my life. It's this self-identity that creates a lot of our suffering. And again, the spiritual journey is being able to see that self-identity, that ego, and the way it manifests itself, and then breathe through it, breathe through the reactions, the compulsions, the emotions, not push them away, but breathe through them, be with them, experience them without attaching to or identifying with them. And in doing that, you allow life to flow. You're no longer trying to interfere with it. And this is extremely powerful for allowing things to be, no matter what it is, whether it's the rainy day outside of you, whether it's, you got into a fender bender. And again, some of these things are harder than others, but when you can do it with the smaller things, you'll be able to do it with the bigger things. It's like lifting weights in the gym. I like that analogy. When you go into the gym for the first time, you've got to start off by lifting lighter weights, and then you progressively overload yourself to begin lifting heavier weights. You get stronger, your muscles get stronger, the same way that your spiritual muscles get stronger in life by experiencing life, not running away from it or distracting it or attaching to things or resisting things. It's our own inner disturbance that is showing us the way to transcend ourselves, which is the way to inner peace. And if a person has never practiced this before, it seems extremely difficult. But it's not. It's not that difficult. I've been there before where things used to really bother me. I used to be that oak tree in the windstorm. And sometimes we have to go through enough of our own self-perpetuated and created suffering to actually want to make a change. Until we experience enough of that, things don't usually change because no one else can make us change. We have to decide that for ourselves. And again, usually it's our own self-created turmoil that makes us want to change, that I don't want to live this way anymore. What do I need to do to change? To change my way of life, how I feel. And it's letting go of yourself, letting go of that ego, that self-concept that is needing life to go a certain way, that needs to resist the flow of life. So a really good practice for coming back to peace within yourself is just breathing. I talk about this a lot in my videos. Being able to sit with whatever it is that you're experiencing and breathing with it. Because this is the path to self-regulation. regulating your nervous system. And your nervous system is that intersecting point between your mind, body, and soul. And when you can regulate that, your mind calms down, your body starts to self-regulate, you come back into a balance within your body, and then you're more in tune with yourself spiritually, the essence of what you are, presence, beingness, God, awareness, stillness, whatever you want to call it. You are more in tune with that. And when you are in tune with that, that is the source of inner peace, the source of life itself, the universe. So that flow of life is coming from the essence of what you are. You are not separate from that. It's like there is an intelligence that is governing life. And when we live from the ego, we see ourselves as separate from that intelligence. But when you realize that you're not the ego, you're not the self-concept, you're that awareness, that container which holds the self-concept. When you realize that you are that, you realize that you're not separate from the intelligence that governs life and that flow of life, which means that you are now aligned with the flow of life. You're going with the flow. You're at peace. You don't mind what happens. And when you don't mind what happens, how could there be any inner disturbance? You just are. You're just being. You're just experiencing that which is. An affirmation that I used and have used in some of the hardest points in my life that has really helped is breathe in acceptance, breathe out resistance. We are always breathing. The breath is always there, no matter what happens in life. And we can learn to think about breathing in the acceptance of what is. I can't control this thing outside of me, so I'm going to come to a place of acceptance that I can't control it and that it is here right now, not resisting it. And when you can breathe out, exhale all of the resistance within your mind and body and tell yourself that, and practice that. In my life, it's worked for coming back to myself, to allow myself to be. Again, it doesn't mean that your mind isn't going to be thinking all the negative thoughts or all the chaos isn't going to be there. It might be there. But you're not identified with it anymore. You realize that they're just thoughts. And you can allow them to be. And they might cause some emotions within yourself, but you're not those either. Anything that you can perceive is not you. It's just an experience happening within awareness, on the screen of consciousness, if you will. And I've used this analogy before. You see me on your screen right now, but I am not the screen. I'm just something that's showing up on the screen. And when you go to the next video or look at the next thing that you're going to look at on your phone, something else will show up on the screen. But that's not the screen either. The screen will always be there. Even if you shut off your phone or your tablet or your computer, the screen will always be there. What shows up on the screen is ever changing. It's always changing. The same is true with us in life. We have this consciousness, this awareness that is observing everything that happens. But everything that happens is just showing up on the screen of that awareness. And when we can learn to look at life through that lens, ourselves through that lens, you're not so attached to things that happen within your awareness, the awareness that you are experiencing life through. You realize that it's just something flowing down the river of life, if you will. Imagine yourself standing in that stream and you just see, a stick or a log floating by. Would you run after it and try and stop it? That'd be silly, right? If you're stood in the middle of the stream trying to stop this massive branch or something because you didn't like it, or hold on to it because you want more, you wouldn't do that. You would just allow things to come and go in the stream. And if we can learn to do that with our own experience of life, whether it's things that are happening within us or outside of us, that is peace. That is inner peace. Not holding on to things, not pushing things away, but coming back to yourself through self-regulation, through breath. And when you can do that, you come back into awareness, the awareness that you are. And in the space of awareness, everything else dissolves. The inner turmoil that you experience or have experienced or will experience will also dissolve in the space of awareness. Think about it this way. If you were to, I think a friend told me this once, and I can't remember where they heard it from, but I think it was some spiritual teaching. Imagine if you poured, a cup of salt into a cup of water. How salty would that water be? Extremely salty. But now imagine if you poured a cup of salt into the ocean. Bad example. Imagine if you poured a cup of salt into, a freshwater lake. Would you taste the salt? Probably not. Think of the water, the amount of water, as your awareness. The more awareness you have, the less the salt will bother you, or you'll be able to taste the salt. And the salt being any experience that you're having, any negative thought, all of that, those negative emotions. You can just be with it. And the more you broaden your awareness, the more you go back into the awareness that you are and can live from that place, the less things bother you. It's a practice. It's a daily practice through meditation. I like to meditate first thing in the morning, anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. That intentional practice of breathing, sitting with myself. And a lot of days I don't want to do it, but that doesn't mean that I don't do it. It means that it's exactly something that I need to observe within myself and not do anything. Just observe that I don't want to do it, observe everything else that comes up, and just be with myself. It's been one of the most life-changing practices. So, daily practice of meditation, of slowing down during the day, not being in such a rush, just slowing down, slow down your walking, slow down your driving, just slow down. When you slow down, you can be more aware of yourself. And this is all about coming back to awareness. Because when you can come back to awareness, you notice your patterns of attachments and resistance and identification, which is often causing our own inner disturbance. So, through these practices of slowing down, of meditating, of being mindful, of self-regulating through breath, you come back into inner peace. No matter what happens, and again, it's a muscle you build within yourself, but you can get to the point where you can experience inner peace, not bliss, but peace, acceptance for what is, no matter what happens outside of you. It doesn't mean that you're going to be super joyful. It doesn't mean you're going to be laughing and giggling all the time. It means that you can be at peace no matter what happens, even though you might be sad or frustrated or whatever. And through that peace, through experiencing whatever you're experiencing, by not pushing it away, but by living in the experience of awareness and whatever shows up there, those things begin to pass through you much easier because you're not resisting it anymore. And if you're not resisting it, it floats by like that branch in the water or anything else. But if you try and stop the branch, if you try and resist the branch, you keep the branch there for a longer period of time. Whatever you resist persists. Keep that in mind when you're experiencing something. And then breathe and let it be there. And when you can let it be there, you realize it passes through. It's like that scene in Harry Potter, the very first Harry Potter, where they are in that, Ron, Harry, and Hermione are in that plant thing, and it's squeezing onto them really tight. And when Harry and Hermione just relaxed, they just fell right through the plant. But Ron was struggling, and he was trying to fight his way out. And that plant gripped onto him, and he was much more anxious and struggling. And the more he struggled, the tighter it gripped. Same is true in life. The more that we resist, the more that we fight, the more that we push things away, the harder life will be. The more they stay there, the more of a grip they have over us. So I hope this video helps you come back to peace within yourself. These are things that have helped me tremendously and continue to help me. They're daily practices. It's a way of life. We can't wait till the hard times come to practice these things. Otherwise, it's like never lifting weights, but then you see something heavy and you're like, oh, I'm going to try and lift that. You're probably going to hurt yourself, or you just won't be able to do it. Same is true with this. We got to practice these things with the small things, and over time it grows and we get better at it, and it's baby steps. And remember, on this path, awareness is the first step to change. Sometimes it can be discouraging because you realize all of the patterns, all of the attachments, all of the resistance and thoughts that have created our own inner disturbance. And through expanding our awareness, those become more prevalent. You start to see those things much more clearly. And that can be discouraging because at one time you were never even aware of it. But you can't, but you have to realize that it's actually a good thing that you have this awareness, because you can make a different choice. You can just let it go. It doesn't have to run your life anymore. So remember that when you're on this journey to expanding awareness and finding inner peace within yourself, coming back to inner peace, letting go of all the things that cover it up, is awareness can sometimes be discouraging if we attach to or identify with those thoughts that we realize have kept us stuck in the past. So I hope this helps. You find inner peace no matter what happens, and I'll see you in the next video.